Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. So, let's start for real. This was just a joke. No, I think that the voice should be okay now. So, I said, Martin, whatever you do, you should check the audio. But yeah, this has become like a the habit of these live streams that I forget to turn on the audio. There's this little button on my mic down here, and I always forget to check it. So sorry for that. And let me know if the audio is now okay. Okay, so in the chat you are already, it seems you're telling me that the sound is okay. Sorry for that. In the recording of the live stream, I will cut this off as usual. What I was saying while I was talking without the audio for you, I was saying that the last live stream that I've done was like a year ago. And that's because I have a reason. Don't worry, guys. I have a reason, rather an excuse. I was moving a lot. I actually changed flats several times. And finally now I live in a new flat and I have a new studio here. So this is my first live stream from this very fresh studio. I will probably, I don't know if I will give a tour, but I may post some images on my Instagram, so you can follow me there. I will actually turn on the overlay image where you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, that's it for the introduction. And the topic, actually, I need to say hi to the chat. So, hi chat. There's quite a lot of you. Wow. So hello. If I was to start saying all your names, I would it would take like 10 minutes. But I'm really glad that you came to watch this tutorial, or rather a live stream, because this is not going to be a tutorial per se. It's going to be me figuring out Blender 3.0, which is of course the great occasion that happened. Actually, it happened on my birthday. 2 days ago, I think. I did have birthday, and I think Blender 3.0 came out on that day, so it was a great birthday present, and it's finally here. Fact is, I've been using Blender 3.0 for like half a year already, because I used the alpha version and the beta version, and it was awesome. But I did not find time to explore its features, or the new features. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. All right, so David Yankes, hello. Rishabh, hello. Adir Gokul, Pavel Horalek. Jean-Marc Denis, I know you. I think I know you from comments from my environment course. So cheers to all of you. And I'm glad that you can now hear me loud and clear. My bad, sorry. And everybody new to the chat, I'm Martin. I make tutorials here on YouTube. I also make my own short film, Heroes of Bronze, situated in ancient Greece. And it's finally coming to the end. I am rendering final shots, which is like, surreal. But it's still going to take some months because, as usual, I made it bigger than I expected. So yeah, I got my Rococo suit, so I can now capture animations and do all sorts of stuff that I thought impossible earlier. And since now it became possible for me, I decided to rework the concept of Heroes of Bronze short film. So while previously, I meant to make everything slow motion, basically shots frozen in time. Now I can make everything real time, real time animations, and it's not going to be slow motion shots. So I think it's gonna be, it's gonna be epic. Just wait for that. I can't show it to you yet, the cut of Heroes of Bronze, but it's very much it's almost locked at this point. I have a music composer. He started composing music. we even have a Greek singer, it seems. So that's awesome. And next week I'm going to record some voiceovers for Heroes of Bronze. So that's going to be awesome. So things are moving. And I'm going to quickly have a look at the chat so that I can reply. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat and I will try replying throughout the live stream. I'll see what I can do. Gokul says, best Blender YouTuber ever. Well, I'm not sure, but thank you very much. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Memes and Strategy says, love your project, but I have one question. What time is Heroes of Bronze set? Heroes of Bronze is set in around 500 BC. And all those big battles that probably everybody knows, like Battle of Marathon, Battle of Thermopylae, it's situated around these battles. So, yeah, the best of the best in ancient history, in my opinion. In 3D, are you working alone? Gokul asks, in 3D, are you working alone or do you have a team? I am working alone so far. Well, not really alone anymore. I have a music composer. I have a voiceover actress. One. But yeah, so I'm not alone anymore. And I, of course, got some assets from various people on the net. So you could say that some of the assets, like these wonderful shields here, which you can see, I got from CG Trader. And I actually forgot the name of the guy who makes them. But all those wonderful, most of the wonderful shields that you can see in my shots, they are made by him. And I should probably find it. CG Trader. Greek shield collection, something like that. I will post the link in the chat. Yeah, it's the first link that you find on Google. So it's an awesome collection. So if you like ancient history, you should definitely buy that package. It's amazing. All right. Can you show any architectural elements? Well, it took me a year to make one temple. So yeah, I'm not really that skilled in architectural stuff and making buildings and stuff like that. But yeah, I will definitely think about it. I'm more focused on, assets like helmets and armors and weapons, and buildings are still a little bit like dark territory for me. So usually I don't make tutorials for anything I'm not really confident at, but we'll see. I'll practice and maybe I'll make a tutorial series or something about this topic. All right, there's a lot of questions, but I think I should start actually this live stream. I actually need it to be a little bit shorter than usual, so let's get to it. And okay, a few more questions. Can you can you tell us if to create models in a second? Should I do that? Well, the question is probably how to create stuff like I do, for example, fast. And in my opinion, it's mostly just you try it first time and you suck at it and it's very slow. And then you try it second time and then you try it for the 10th time and 20th time. And gradually, there's no single tip for getting faster and better at 3D. So it's actually better to do it over and over and over and over again. And those like little breakthroughs gradually happen, and suddenly you find yourself being like a fast and efficient 3D artist. So that's what happened to me. I was almost like I didn't think of myself as a good 3D artist. I still don't. but yeah, I've been doing stuff like this for several years now, and I've done enormous amount of repetitions of the same stuff, and gradually I've learned how to do something like Heroes of Bronze. So yeah, that's the key for getting faster and better at this. Cheers everybody, and I should really start this. So, as you can see, there's a little 300 number here in the bot. Oh, you can't see that because my head is covering it. So let me actually hide the edges here. And yeah, there's a little 300 in here. And now I will cover it with my face. Sorry for that. And yeah, here's my little hoplite. It's nothing special. It's like one of the crowd elements that I use for Heroes of Bronze. So every time you see a shot and there is someone in the background, it's one of these guys. Not too detailed. You can see that this clothing is actually sucks. Other than that, yeah, I try to have some like a streamlined assets in the background. So most of these textures are pretty small. It doesn't look like it. It actually looks quite well, but most of the textures are pretty small and they are shared across of my background assets. And one of the big features of Blender 3.0, something that will really, I think, change how I work with this project in Blender is, of course, drumroll, the asset browser. So what does it mean? Basically, it's like in Unreal or in Unity, when you have a library of assets that you just drag and drop into your scene. And that's what just got added to Blender. And it's amazing. It really is fast, and it's like so far I had no problem with it, except for a little thumbnail problem, but I'll mention that later. And Delby Bolanos says that he loves, or she, I'm sorry, I love your environment course. Thank you. And I'm glad it's useful. And okay, I will try to not interrupt these segments where I describe the Blender features. So sorry, for a while now I'll ignore the chat, or at least I'll try to, and I'll get back to this. So as you can see, I created a second window here, and in the menu you find this asset browser, or you can hit Shift F1, and that creates this asset browser window. Right off the bat, we can basically try to add something into it. As I said, the functionality is the same as in Unreal Engine or iClone or Unity. You basically add an existing asset into this library here, and then in your other scenes, you are then able to basically just drag it in. And that really speeds up your workflow. You can create various libraries here, and that's what I'm going to do now. So let me actually find, for example, let's select this shield, and on my numpad I hit the little delete button, or basically a dash button, and it finds it right off the bat in the outliner here. And adding like any object or anything into this asset library here is just by right-clicking and marking as asset. And let's see what happens. And you can see right here we have our aspis. By the way, aspis, that's what shields were called in ancient Greece, so don't be confused by that. So right off the bat, we have added this shield into the asset library. And now we have basically, we can just drag it anywhere, and it, just like that, it adds the asset. And when we open up a different scene, we can drag it in just as easily. So that's awesome. However, there are some complications for that. We will have a look how to add different stuff into Asset Browser in a little while. But before that, you actually have to set up your asset libraries so that it works and that it can work in your other scenes. For that, you need to go to Preferences, File Paths, and here you can see I already have my location. This is a temporary location. You should set up something that, basically that's on your drive, that's dedicated to your projects. So this is what your library will be called. We can, let's call it HoB, Heroes of Bronze, and it will be stored here in this location here, and everything that we will put inside of this asset browser will be saved on this location. So if you plan to make big libraries, definitely choose a location that is big enough to store all your data. That's my recommendation. After that, you just save preferences, and from now on, everything that you put into the asset library will be saved there. So we can, as you can see, I've added this whole asset into the library. One thing, this is a really ugly thumbnail. So what we can do with N, it opens up this shelf, the side shelf, and here you can see the preview. And what you can actually do is create your own image. Somehow this thumbnail should be dependent on the camera in your scene. And you should basically, the way it works is you set your active camera to be, to create a nice thumbnail of your object, and then you hit this icon and it should create a nice thumbnail from the perspective of this camera, but somehow it doesn't work for me. And I watched some tutorials, I tried to figure it out, and it doesn't work. So any of you here in the chat, oh, the chat is going crazy. So any of you in the chat, if you know why this is, I would be really happy if I learned why does my thumbnail not update when I set my camera like this. Anyways, what you can actually do is create your own image. So basically, let me hide everything but the shield. I have selected the shield and hit Shift H, and that hit everything except the shield, and I can create an image like this with a tool that I have for screenshots. I can save the image. Let's save it, for example, on my desktop, and I have saved the image, and now I can load it here. See? And now I have a nice preview thumbnail of the asset that I created. So that's really good for any libraries that you want to create, to have nice thumbnails so that immediately you can see what you're working with. Here you can of course name it, and you can add some description, shield for Heroes of Bronze, and you can even add tags here. They are here for differentiating various elements, various properties of your asset. It doesn't actually drive anything. It doesn't change any settings of the asset. It is here for just, filtering various assets. When you start having hundreds and hundreds of assets, this is good for filtering them. So let's add some more assets. So let's unhide this. And what can we add? We can add, for example, let me select this crest here, and I have a Eevee real-time shader for the hair, and it's real fast. Actually, the principled hair BSDF shader doesn't work in Eevee, so I have this shader, and just as you would expect, you just right-click it. You just right-click it and mark as asset, and it's been added. As easy as that. What you can do, of course, any asset that you want to add, you can add like this by marking as asset. Again, you can create your custom thumbnail for it. I will not be doing it for every single asset that I'm gonna create, but I just wanted you to know that there is this option where you can, where you can take just pictures and make them as thumbnails. Okay, there is some discussion going on in the chat, but it doesn't seem to be about asset browser, so yeah. Okay. And Kay is asking if we are talking about the new asset browser. Yes, we are. That's what this live stream, this slightly shorter live stream, will be about. So as you can see, I've already added 3 assets here. One is material and 2 are to these assets like 3D models with textures. And again, let's test it. When I add it in, it is very quickly added into the scene. What else can we add? For example, I have this forest EXR set in the world. Here in this menu over here, I have world, and in it I have forest EXR. And this world I can actually drag into asset browser as well. So that's awesome for changing various environments. Let me actually set up a second world here with some different HDRI. So world 2, and change this HDRI to something else. So yeah, let's choose something in here, something rather small. So that's a different atmosphere from the first one. And the way you drag this into the asset browser is actually through Blender file here. And that's probably the easiest way to drag your assets, or to add your assets from the current blend file that you're working with into the asset browser. You just open up this Blender file, and here you can see the list of everything that is in your blend file. And down here there's worlds, and when I add this first world into the library, whoops, something weird happened, but here I have this world, as you can see. And when I add this second world here, it creates this. And now, like, changing HDRIs is just as easy as dragging it into the scene. So you can save several worlds like this and build an HDRI library. So that's awesome. All right, something here happened and it added these assets here. So let me actually show you how to get rid of them. As you would expect, you just right click it and hit clear asset. And it added this Aspis bull. It's actually hidden for now, so let me delete it as well. By the way, you can of course change the size of these thumbnails, so you can make them tiny or any other size that suits you. Very cool. So that's how you can add all the assets that are in your blend file from this Blender file library here. That's the easiest way to do this. And yeah, let's say I want to create various folders. So let me first show you how you can of course search here. So let me search Aspis, and it filters out everything in here. You can click on this menu down here. Hope you can see it. And you can filter out materials, objects, worlds. By the way, we can save actions as well, but we'll not get into it in this live stream. But you can. And now, one thing I didn't show you yet is how to create this catalog option. So let's say I want to create Heroes of Bronze materials folder. So I click on this. I rename this catalog to HoB materials. And then I go back to the unassigned and drag this into the materials folder. I want to create, for example, weapons folder. I will show you weapons. I have them in other collection. Weapons. And let's hide this guy here and open up this collection where I have the weapons that I regularly use for Heroes of Bronze. Let me use this asset browser, because this lighting, it's not really visible what we're working with. So let's drag the other world into it, and it's slightly better. We can probably increase the strength here. And these are the weapons that you will probably know from the various images that I published for Heroes of Bronze. So some spears, some swords, everything. I tried to create everything as historically accurate as possible for the time. And I want to create weapons library from this. So let me just shift select this and add everything as asset. It's not in the weapons folder. I need to actually drag it inside. And that's how easy it is to create libraries. Cool, right? Last thing that I didn't really talk about, and actually I don't see it here. What's going on? There should be an option. There should be an option how you want to use your stuff that you added into the library. You actually have an option to just drop it in and make it a unique copy, or you can link it, and all the copies or all the objects that you will add in from the asset library will be linked together with all the materials, and all the object data will be linked. Let me It should be somewhere. It should be in the middle here. That's really weird. Let me close this and open up the asset browser again. Yeah, it's not there. Well, these things always happen when you start live streaming. Because an hour ago I was here it is. Sorry for that. I actually had this current file selected, and to be able to drag in data from your Heroes of Bronze library, or from your library that you created on your disk on that specific folder location that I showed you, is Heroes of Bronze. I named it, if you remember, in preferences. So you need to have it selected instead of this current file, and then this little import type menu will appear. So what does this mean? So let me hide this. And I have these various weapons here. And let's say I want to drag in this Siphos sword, and I want to append it as a regular object. So just drag it in. And when I drag the next one with this append option, basically now what should happen is when I edit it, the other one is not linked to the second copy that we dragged in. So it's making unique copies of every single object that you drag into your scene. However, if you drag it in linked, and it's not working somehow. It should actually, when I drag it in with this option here, it should create a linked copy, but I don't know why it's not working right now. I'm sorry, guys. But just so you know, this first one will create a unique copy for everything you drag in. The second one will create a unique copy of the thing that you drag in, but it will share for all the copies that you drag in afterwards. They will share materials, they will share object data. So when you edit them in edit mode, let's actually try it. They should have, well, it's not working somehow, but they should be basically linked with object data. And then when you link, you will basically do the same thing as if you were linking from other file, only this time you are linking from your library. Let me actually try to reload this project. Maybe it will help. And one thing that you need to do every time you add something into your asset library is you need to save your project where you've created this library. This way you will send basically the data into the asset library on your disk, and you will save it there. So let's save it. Let's open it up again. And let's see if this linking option works now. No. That's really weird. Anyways, this is how you create various folders in here, and my plan is to fill these folders, like create folders for weapons, for shields, for various armors that I created and materials. You can even create a light. Let me create a point light. Let's create a plane so that we see the light here. bring down the strength of the world so that we see the lights effect. And let's make it an orange light with low power, big radius. Oop, not that big. 0.5 and contact shadow, so that let's actually add some more objects here. By the way, this contact shadow is really good if you want to have more quality in your shadows in Eevee. However, you can see that it's much more precise when I check it in. However, when you have a lot of lights like this, you will notice some performance drain. So watch out for that. And let's actually make it like a fire light. So it will be blinking a little bit. So let's bring it to 10 and insert a keyframe here. And this, I will show you something that I didn't plan, but I will show you how to make a blinking firelight. What I did now is I went to the graph editor, and here you can see I have the point light that I have created and the power option that I have keyframed. There is one keyframe at the start of the timeline, and let me select it. And when you select this keyframe that's at the beginning of the timeline in the power section, there are these modifiers here. And when you add a noise modifier, it created this noise animation. It should be blinking a little, but it doesn't have enough strength here. So let's actually increase this. See? Basically, this curve is telling you how the animation will increase the power over time. So when it goes down, it will get lower, the power. And when it goes up, it will get more intense. And it creates this effect of like a candle or fireplace changing the strength of its light. Let's actually make it, let's make it faster by decreasing the scale. Yep. Something like that. And now I have created a firelight. Let's name it firelight. Let's make it a little more orange, less red. And right click, mark as asset. Go back to the asset library. Unassigned. And it should be there. Oh man, what's happening? It created it in the current file library because I didn't save the project yet. So everything that you save is in this library that you named in preferences, and everything that you didn't save yet is in the current file. It stores it in the blend file that you're working with. Yeah, I can see that I need to learn this stuff a little bit more. So that's why I called this Exploring Blender 3.0, not Mastering Blender 3.0. So sorry for some of the mistakes and for stuff that doesn't really work. So that's one neat option that you have, is storing lights with different settings in this. Yeah. And you just drag it in and you have several fires in your scene. Pretty cool. Let's save it. And when I saved it, now it's in the Heroes of Bronze library, because after the save, basically it sent it to that location where we specified that we want our library to be. Okay, I'll have a quick look in the chat. Kay is saying that there are too few tutorials on this topic. I think they will pop up in the following days, because Blender was now released and people started to create tutorials like crazy. That's my tip. So in the following days we will have more tutorials on this. And yeah, it seems. Hey Martin, do you have some update to the environment course regarding the new geometry nodes? That's what I plan on starting to work on this next week. I plan on finishing the chapter somehow, I don't know, around the end of the year, beginning of the next one, and it will be released for free in the environment course. So no worries, it is planned, but I really wanted to wait for Blender 3.0 to come out to be absolutely sure that the node systems will not change anymore, because if you know, that's what happened. Basically in the alpha version, the geometry nodes did have different system than they have now. So everybody who made tutorials and courses for it based on the alpha version was pretty pissed when they changed it completely. But I'm sure it's for the better. And yeah, we will not get into geometry nodes in this live stream. I will probably save it for the next one because I have not mastered it yet. So I can't really talk about it. But the new chapter in environment course is definitely planned, and it will hopefully come out early next year. So watch out for that. And it will be focused on, actually, it's not going to be a chapter focused on a large scale environment, but it will be more like a landscape, like a close-up of a landscape with a city in the background. And we will combine several techniques that we used in other chapters of the course. And we will also use the geometry nodes for distributing vegetation and stuff like that. It will not be really an intro into geometry nodes. It will be like this is an example or workflow you can use with geometry nodes, but I will not go into every single node there is. So yeah, that being said, there is other feature that I wanted to explore in this live stream, and we will create, or we will rather open up a different scene for that. Let me have a sip here. Gokul asks, you put one keyframe there, so the value is already static. I put the keyframe there, and yeah, what can I show you with? Let's actually recreate it here. I create a point light here. I keyframe its power option, and let's go to the graph editor. I created one keyframe because otherwise you wouldn't be able to access. In the power section, you wouldn't be able to access this modifier panel. Basically, if you didn't have any keyframe here, there would be nothing to add the modifier to. So that's why you need to create at least one keyframe and add the noise modifier to it. So yeah, that's the reason why. And here, let's go back to the asset browser. And here I have a little animation of one of the historical characters from Heroes of Bronze. This is Aristides. Well, he's not that famous as, for example, Themistocles, who supposedly, if you watch the movie 300 or its second part, Themistocles supposedly won the battle at Marathon. Well, he didn't. It was a big lie of the movie creators. There were like 10 generals. It is, yes, Themistocles was one of them, but there were 9 others, and one of them was this Aristides guy, and he will have a role in my overall Heroes of Bronze story. He was very well known. He's historically very well known for being like the most honest and the most truthful telling character in history. There's this famous story from his life. There was a vote for in Athens, because in Athens it was a form of early democracy, and he displeased basically the crowds. This guy Aristides, he displeased the crowds. He was aristocrat, and the crowds didn't like him, so they wanted to vote to exile him. And while the vote was going on, there were all these people being basically bribed to exile this guy Aristides, and one of the countrymen came into the city. He didn't know his way around, so he went to the voting place where the votes were being cast for the exile of Aristides, but he couldn't write. And the way this vote was being cast was you took a little piece of ceramic shard, you wrote on it the name of the person that you want to exile from your city, and you cast it into some urn or something. But he didn't know how to write. So he asked the guy that stood next to him, "Please, sir, can you write the name of Aristides on this little shard here so I can make him into exile, so I can cast my vote?" But he didn't know that the guy was this Aristides himself. But he was so honest. Aristides was supposedly so honest and so truthful, and he liked democracy so much that, yeah, he basically just asked the guy, "Why do you want to exile this Aristides?" And the guy from the countryside said, "Yeah, I just don't like him. He says truth too much." So, yeah, basically something that happens in this world as well, in the world of politics. And what did Aristides do? He wrote. He of course knew how to write, so he wrote his own name on the little piece of ceramics, and he dropped it into the casting ballot, and he was exiled. So, yeah, that's a funny story from history. And I love that the period that I'm working on, that I'm making my story about, is full of these stories. So I will try to bring at least some of them into the book and into the short film. Anyways, this is going to be a short thing that I'm going to show you, and it's still connected to the asset browser here. So we've opened it here. You can see that we already see everything that we've saved in the previous file, and now I wanted to show you that you can also create a library of poses for your characters. So if you have rigged characters like I have here, you can first, what you need to do is go to Preferences, add this add-ons, and activate Pose Library. And when you have it active, of course, save Preferences, and this will allow you to go into pose mode. In here, basically, you select your armature and you go to pose mode down here or up here. You probably have this menu up here, but me personally, I like it down here. You can switch it by right-clicking and hitting this, flip to bottom or flip to top. And I have this pose here at this point in time. So just right-clicking it again, you there are several ways that you can add this pose into your library, but my favorite actually is to hit N to access this shelf, go to this animation menu that gets accessed when you switch to the pose mode, and so asset browser must be set to the current file library. Yeah, you will probably experience this as well. You will not be able to create a pose like this unless you switch here to the current file, not to the saved library that we created, but to the current file, and then this will not be grayed out, and you will be able, if you select all your bones, of course, you can select just some of the bones. So for example, if you want to create just body posture, but not finger posture, you can select everything except for the bones on the hands. But that's not really what I want. I want to, with A, select all the bones, create pose asset, and it doesn't have any image right now. So again, I can, for example, go here, display this, and take a picture. Rest pose. I already have pictures here actually. I saved it before this live stream. So again, you go to the old folder here, you hit N in the asset browser, and you open up this preview folder, and from the location where you saved your image, you add this armature pose. And then I I actually have animation here. So I just go forward in time where he changes the position like this. It's kind of neat pose. So again, I go to the pose library. I create a new pose. So it creates the second one. And in here, you can load in any image that you've saved on your disk. And let me actually name it. So pose idle. And this one will be pose ready. Yeah. And now changing your poses with this asset library is as easy as double clicking it. When you are in the pose library, yeah. When you are in the pose mode, you just double click it and it jumps into the pose that you've saved. So that's awesome. And again, you can create various libraries with these sorts of poses. And actually the poses that you save will try to basically attach to any other armature that you create. So that's really versatile. And like this, I can create file with poses and assign those that I've created into it. Pretty cool. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to show you. There is, of course, so much more that Blender 3.0 offers, but this feature, except for the geometry nodes that I definitely plan on exploring in the future, in the very near future, this feature really made me happy, because this way I will be able to create all sorts of libraries here and just drag my assets into the scenes and very quickly populate everything and add weapons that I use regularly into my scenes. So I'm really happy that it got added into Blender. And that's what I wanted to show you today. And now it's time finally for questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat and let me know what you like, how you like this asset library, if you're going to use it on your projects, and let me know if this showcase helped you at least a little bit. All right. You should try stand-up comedy also, says Gokul. Actually, yeah, I'm not really the type. Talking like this actually exhausts me, so I'm not really the best type for live streams, at least not when I am alone in live streams. That's why I not do them so regularly. But yeah, thank you. Kay asks, what time is it? Well, it's 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. in my country here, so it's pretty dark out there. All right. I'll have a look back in the chat if there's still someone, if there's still the people who asked questions previously. Kodesh asks, what do you all think about the viewport and render samples under cycles? Well, I find cycles rendering in 3.0 very much faster. I actually have a new computer here. Right now I'm working on the old one, with which I've created everything for Heroes of Bronze, but I currently have a new one, and on it's even faster. But even on this old one, the responsiveness of the viewport, and you can actually still see what's going on in the viewport. If you remember in the old days of 2.9 and below, when you started rotating in Blender, you couldn't see anything. Basically, everything got so noisy. You had to wait. You had to stop the rotation and then wait for at least a few samples to be rendered. And nowadays, I think I can even play the animation here. Well, no, because I'm live streaming and that's taking some performance. But when I didn't live stream, I actually was able to just play the animation and see it in see it changing in real time. Of course, noisy as hell, but I could see it in cycles. So that's really a step up. Supposedly, the new Cycles X rendering is 2 to like 8 times faster than the previous one. So if you have big projects to render, definitely use this. You can, of course, use the new denoising tools here and increase the number of samples. One thing that I've learned recently, you can actually go to the HDRI setting in the World tab, and to speed up everything, you can set this surface setting here and the sampling of it to manual. And this basically like downscales the resolution and the detail of your HDR image. And while it will produce some more noise and fireflies, like the bright little dots on your models, you need to experiment with the map resolution here. I learned that when I set it to like 1024, it's still much faster than when you set it to auto, and it generally doesn't produce too many fireflies. So try this setting or experiment with your own. But this new set, I don't know if it was there before, but in settings of this world properties, there's this surface menu, and you set it to manual and then experiment with the resolution, and you can cut the rendering times like to half. So that's awesome. Okay, do you have your 3D text live stream tutorial from last year available somewhere? I can't seem to find it. Well, it's on my Patreon, but since you are here and since it's Christmas, I will post it in the chat so you can watch it for free. Yeah. By the way, I'm making a free tutorial series on my character creation pipeline. In like 2 days, I will release part 4 of 5, and yeah, you can watch it. It's a Christmas gift for you, and I am currently searching for my previous live stream with the 3D text so that I can post it here. Yep, found it and posting it into the chat, and you can learn with this link that I just posted. You can learn how to create like a 3D extruded text and then texture it in Substance Painter. All right. Yes, maybe it's lagging because I'm rendering this guy, so I'll switch back into the shaded mode. Sorry for the lag. Does denoise avoid fireflies? Yes, but thing is, you always need to find like the balance of samples that you use in render settings and now even the surface quality of this resolution and the denoising. So because sometimes when your resolution or your samples in the rendering are too low and you denoise everything gets kind of mushy and low detail, and it's very apparent that it's been denoised. Not to mention that in videos there is like a weird fragments, different type of noise, but it's very visible if you denoise videos that were rendered at really low samples. So watch out for that, but denoising definitely removes fireflies. Oh, it's set to private. So I'll change that. Yeah, I used to always have my live streams set to private, or only the Patreons could access them. But then I changed policy because everybody was mad at me. So yeah, I changed policy, and I started creating exclusive tutorials for my Patreon, and I started making these live streams for free, and then leaving them public. So that's what I will do with this one. It's not a good one anyway, so no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I haven't been doing live stream, like a solo live stream, for a year now. So I'm a little like, I'm not in my best performance, I think, today. Anyways. All right. Oh, difficult inside. Sorry, I skipped your question. Would you recommend to do your environment course in Blender 3.0 or everything in 2.9? Well, I would recommend doing the old chapters that were there originally in the during the release of the course in 2.93, because there are some comments now and people say that some things change. Fortunately, it seems to be little things like, various effects of various blending modes and stuff like that. It gives slightly different results, but the workflows themselves, they work, but I would, they work even in Blender 3.0, but I would actually recommend doing the older chapters in 2.93. And of course, the newer one that I will release pretty soon will be best done in Blender 3.0 because there the geometry nodes are. So you will actually need Blender 3.0 for that. How do you put soldiers on horses? Shams is asking. I parent them to the hip bone of the horse. No, I have this. I am actually experimenting with this workflow now. I'm not prepared to discuss it yet because I need to figure out some stuff that I'm experimenting with now. But I started using constraints, and I constrain my characters to the back of the horse, and then basically I lower the effect of the constraint so that he is moving with the horse and with the hip bone of the horse, but kind of with a little bit of delay and with a little bit of less effect, so it's not perfectly following the bone of the horse, and it produces really nice results. So that's something I'm experimenting with, and I will either make a live stream about it or I will make a tutorial about it. I'm still thinking. Gosh, so much thing to do, and so little time to do it. All right. What is your expertise, like modeler, FX artist, or what? Originally, I'm a compositor. And then I gradually started working on 3D stuff while I was also dabbling in 2D concepts. So I ended up being a generalist. I have been like a freelance generalist for 5 years. And then I went into game industry and I started making cinematics for Warhorse Studios, who made Kingdom Come Deliverance. So I directed cutscenes there, and that was great experience. Most of the time, I basically focus on making cinematic stuff in 3D. And so that's not really an expertise. That's basically like, you need to know a little bit of everything. And I'm not really good at anything. But I try to be at least good at putting stuff together into nice shots. And that's why I need to learn a little bit of everything. I already have your large-scale landscape training, says Dem. Do you plan to do a small-scale scene? Yes, as I mentioned, I will be adding a new scene or a new chapter into the course. It will be added for free. It will just be like added at the very end of the course, and it will show a workflow using geometry nodes. And that chapter will be focused on like a mid-size environment with trees and vegetation. We will distribute the vegetation with geometry nodes, and in the background there will be a city that we will capture with the GIS add-on, and it will be hopefully it will be a pretty nice looking scene. I'm still working on it. So yes. And Benjin's asking, if I subscribe to your Patreon, I'll be able to access all the older live streams. Yes, but only if you access my Patreon with the higher tier of patrons. That's Hoplite and Hippospist. It's like the two highest. They have access to everything, almost everything. The Hoplites definitely have access to everything on my Patreon. So yeah. Zeus Creates says, Jack of all trades, master of none, often better than master of one. I read an interesting article lately, and the original meaning of this this proverb or this expression, Jack of all trades, master of none, was actually Jack of all trades, master of one. So that was the original meaning, and it should, like, of course we understand it differently these days. These days it means when you try to focus on everything, you are good at nothing. But in the olden days, or like in Renaissance, where there were these amazing artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, they were amazing at many things, but they were really, really, really good at one thing. So that's what it should mean. We should all try to learn as much as we can, but be really good at least at one thing. So that's my goal. All right. Quixel Bridge can't export for Blender 3.0. Is that true? Well, I did have problem with it, and I couldn't figure it out. Basically, it does export for me, but it doesn't add the materials and the textures. So yeah, well, now that you mention it, I didn't look into it, but I did have problem ever since I started using the Blender 3.0 beta and the original or the official release that just got released. So I thought it's just my stupidity, but maybe it's a bug. So we'll see. They will probably release a new version of the bridge to Blender live link very soon. So I imagine it will be solved in a matter of days. Hopefully. All right. I will be live streaming for like 10 more minutes, so definitely ask your questions. Anything you have, throw it at me. I'm really glad that you stayed till the end. There's quite a lot of you, so thank you for your attention. Hope you liked this feature of Blender 3.0 and definitely explore it. It's awesome for big projects because you will be then able to just drag in, just save everything into libraries and then just drag it into your scenes. It's basically like Quixel Bridge, but directly in Blender, and you can create your own assets with ease. So awesome. Gokul says, I'm a filmmaking student and we are studying Maya, but it's a lot different from Blender. I want to go into environment design, so do you have any suggestion? Which software should I learn which can help me? Well, that depends on where you want to get. So if you want to get into a big company, I would say like sticking to Maya or 3D Max or whatnot. Maybe Houdini, maybe. I don't know. Houdini is pretty technical. But sticking to this official software is still your best bet, unfortunately. It's changing quite a bit. The Blender is getting into big studios these days, but still majority of the companies that work in film industry or game industry, they're still using stuff by Autodesk mostly. Yeah, so Blender is still not widespread in professional big studios. If you plan on being a freelancer, then I would definitely recommend Blender because you don't have to, I mean, it can do anything. And I try to prove it with my projects. And besides, it's free. So you don't have to pay monthly fee, which are humongous usually for Autodesk stuff. And yeah, if you plan on being freelancer, I definitely recommend Blender. If you want to get into a professional pipeline in a big studio, I recommend finding out which studio you want to get to and then finding out which software they work with. Maya, I myself started with Maya and I worked in it for like 6 years before I switched to Blender. So I know it, or I think I don't know it anymore. I think I forgot everything, but I must say Blender, I like it more. It's more, I can't say it's more user-friendly, but it's definitely faster when it comes to the actual workflow. You learn keyboard shortcuts and then you just flow, and it's really fluent and seamless, and I love Blender workflows. So yeah, that's why I make tutorials about it. Where are good sources for sky images, like night sky or something? Need high quality image. Well, if you mean specifically night sky, I ran into this problem that I couldn't actually find any high quality night sky images, and so I decided to create a tutorial for CG Boost where I show you how to create night sky, build it with shader nodes in Blender. So I'm posting it into the discussion. Other than that, somebody, Henry Gonzalez, already says HDRI Haven is a great resource. And I recommend, where I go often is Photobash. They are mostly for concept artists, and they say that their images are just for reference, but I often use them in my 3D scenes and they are high quality enough for me. So there's a lot of libraries there with different night sky, not really night sky, but like dawn and dusk and a lot of clouds and stuff like that. So I have a lot of their libraries, so that's really recommended. Cam says, I'm late for the class, but tips for environment design. There is a new challenge this month for mythology. Yes, there is. I actually considered joining it myself, but no, I'm one of the judges, so that would probably be good. Well, environmental design. I recommend reference. There's this awesome new reference website that is driven by AI, and you basically search for an image, and based on your search you click on an image you like, and it will find every other image on the net that looks like that image, and that's great for visual reference. So you can really quickly build libraries of similar looking stuff. And I posted it in the chat. I really recommend it. It's called same.energy. I don't know why, but same energy. Like, the images that you search for, you get a lot of results of images with same energy, I guess. So, definitely check it out. It's an amazing tool. So back to the question. Tips for environmental design. I know it's a pretty boring answer, but definitely try to study reference. Of course, go outside and take your own pictures if you can. Also, go outside and try to paint what you see, or draw at least. That will really make you focus on what you're seeing and how nature looks. And also study artists that you like. Try to really sit down and, I know how it is. You go to the profile of an artist that you like, you open up his images, look at it for 2 seconds, and you flip to another one. But don't do that. Really sit down with a single artwork and try to really look at it like, what's the composition? What's the lighting? What makes this image great? try to dissect it like this, make notes, and next day do it again, or do it at least once a week, and it will really help you. So other than, then of course you can take my course at CG Boost. But after doing the course, I actually really came back to this, that having great folder with reference images is a lifesaver. Mark asks something, if there's something special regarding Blender tutorials resources. Well, I just posted some tips into the discussion. I currently have nothing on my mind, so but I will definitely share it on my YouTube here with some short videos if I come up with something. I have a lot of stuff planned, so yeah, definitely stay tuned. Can you provide your Patreon link, sir? Yes, I can. It's pretty easy. It's patreon.com/Martin Kleckner, which is my name. Okay, if Blender is free and can potentially do anything that Maya 3ds Max can do, why do the big studios still use them? Couldn't they save a lot of money cutting those other softwares out? Well, thing is, big studios, they are quite old. Like, they've been here for 10, some of them 20, even more years. And they build a pipeline that works. And they build a pipeline that's reliable and can deliver results in very, very low time. Not to mention that they have probably great deals with companies that provide the software. So it's pretty easy for them to get the software, and they have a time-proven pipeline. And changing such a pipeline to something as like work in progress as Blender is a big risk. So new studios often like think about Blender, and when they start building their pipeline from scratch on Blender, it's quite okay for them. But if you have these giants like Digital Domain and Veta Digital, ILM, they already have their pipeline and they don't really need to change it. So that's why they still, I'm not sure if they don't need to change it, but they don't dare change it. That's my little tip for that, why there's not much more Blender on the market. Hopefully that changes, and gradually more and more studios will transfer to Blender. But nah, I'm kind of skeptical, so like 10 more years before, maybe not 10, but like 5 more years before Blender is really dominant. Let's hope nothing changes with Blender. I thought about Substance Painter, how that will grow amazingly, and then Adobe bought it. So yeah, of course Blender can't be bought, so that's good, but you never know. What does HoB stand for? It's Heroes of Bronze, and that's my personal project. And I don't want to write down Heroes of Bronze every time I create a folder or a blend file, so I made this shortcut HoB, and I'm putting a link to my project into the discussion. And a lot of people already replied. All right, so that was fun live stream. I'm glad I was able to get back to it. I have a somewhat stable connection here, so I can do these live streams again. Probably not as frequent as I used to do them, but I will definitely try to do more than just one a year. So I'll get back to it, and yeah, there are some more questions coming in. So I'll quickly answer them, but these will be the last ones. I gotta get moving after that. So can you help when I create a inflow object in MantaFlow and an obstacle like a plane? Actually, I'm not very good at MantaFlow. I am just experimenting with these sorts of tools, but that's the one area that I'm not good at. So I'm very sorry for that, but I can't, definitely not from the top of my mind. So sorry Gokul for that. Okay. Marcus Sidonio asks, how did you organize your project files? Well, I have a folder organization that I like created in several years of working on little projects, and I will not go into too much of a detail, but I will show you a typical my typical folder template. So here I have a little template for my folders, and I go basically through this workflow every time I create a scene in Blender. So I have a folder with reference. Of course, this is a template folder, so everything is empty. But I have a 01 folder for reference. Then if I make my concepts, I put them in here. Then I have 3D scenes with my blend files. After that, I have textures. So not only my project files from Substance Painter, but also the exported textures. So all of my blend files basically are linked to this textures folder. After that, when I render my sequences or still images, I put them in the render folder. And actually, nowadays I'm using a comp folder instead of VFX, because I'm no longer making visual effects, rather I'm just comping 3D stuff together. So I changed the naming a little bit, but the sixth folder is composition, where I have my After Effects projects and I make my compositions there. Then I have edit if I need to jump into Adobe Premiere and edit some videos together. Final is the folder where I find everything, like the final versions of the shots, so that I don't have to search for them in the render folders. I have one file or several files that are that I consider final, and I can quickly get them if I search for them. Feedback is something that where I store various comments from people that I find valuable, and BTS stands for behind the scenes. This is if I create some behind the scenes videos from this particular scene, I store everything there. So this is my folder. This is my folder pipeline. I will not go into more detail here because I don't have it prepared, but I really recommend making, for every single 3D scene or project or anything, I recommend making your own folder structure. That's the basic stuff that you need to do if you are making bigger projects. All right. So that's it. Thank you for being here. This was the last question that I answered today, but I will try to do these live streams more frequently, as I said. And with that, yeah, I have new courses, so you can check my Gumroad if you want. I have a course that is, I will put the link in the chat, and I will show you. I have these two new packages. This character creation live streams is basically just a repack of some live streams that I created in the previous year, and some of the chapters from the Marching Army shot. A lot of people asked for these sorts of character creation videos, and I had them basically mixed in different courses where people got a lot of other stuff around it. And based on the feedback, I created this special package where it's just about my character creator, iClone, and Blender workflow, which is, of course, something that I'm making currently a tutorial about, and the next part will be coming out soon. But you can, for much more detail on this stuff, you can already check my Gumroad and get my detailed workflows there. So yeah, and this is, of course, the series that I'm currently working on, my character creation pipeline. It will have 5 parts. We are currently at part 3, and this week I will be releasing part 4. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And yeah, I just closed in some windows. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you, friend, for staying here for yeah, it's been more than an hour now. And see you next time.